So join us tonight and help me to welcome our host and creator, Nancy Mariah Balish.
Good job. So good evening and welcome to LMR Live from the Chancellor's House Hotel right off of the historic square in Oxford, Mississippi. We are in a very charming and elegant room and we're thrilled to be back. A big thank you to Clifton and AJ for making this possible to have us here at the Chancellor's House Hotel. The content of tonight's show is possible because of a partnership with the National Association of Teachers of Singing, an organization that is very dear to my heart, and I have the pleasure of serving as the governor for the Mississippi District. So our partnership has allowed us to bring a specialist to campus, and it's really exciting because last episode I mentioned that Nats is celebrating a big birthday. Nats is 75 years young. I think that's pretty cool. Yes, what, should we sing happy birthday? Let's sing happy birthday. Let's do it. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. So NATS was founded in 1944 and it's the largest professional organization or association of teachers of singing. It has a membership of over 7,000 people in the United States, Canada, and I believe over 35 countries. It is enormous. So how do we celebrate? We celebrate, well, by singing happy birthday, right? We celebrate by having a room full of fantastic singers. We celebrate by bringing a fellow NATS member from North Carolina to our campus for our conference. We celebrate in style. And tonight, with this guest, we are going to talk about the Alexander Technique, a wonderful method that is not just for singers, it's not just for performers. So another way we're celebrating is connecting all of us singers to the community. So I want to say thank you, Nats. Thank you, Chancellor's House. Let's get it going on. Why are we here? We're here for edutainment. Thank you for edutainment. Edutainment. So, I love it. I love it. I love it when the audience is just on top of it. All right. So what is the Alexander Technique? The Alexander Technique is a way of learning how you can get rid of harmful tension in your body. Mind and body balance. They've actually found that people have a reduction in tremors when they have studied or worked with the Alexander Technique. It is about undoing the unhelpful. The Mayo Clinic has this to say, quote, the Alexander Technique is a safe and effective method for improving posture, reducing stress, and supporting optimal health. AT offers a gentle and sustainable counterbalance to the fast-paced world of stress, tension, and strain. Are they following me around? Are they following me around? No. AT students learn how to recognize and prevent harmful habits, thereby restoring the natural poise, dynamic coordination, and overall uprightness of the whole body. Does this sound good to you, Alexis? Yes. Does it sound good to you, Maddie? I hope it sounds good to our viewers in North Carolina and Pennsylvania and everywhere. So let's get in the mood for this LMR Live. Let's start our intro video. Let's do it. All right, so remember, we want to hear from you. So chat in YouTube, post on Facebook, tweet, or if you're in this room like Caitlin, speak up and join in. So, who is going to lead this journey tonight? Someone named Jessie Wright Martin. Who is Jessie? Singer, teacher, opera director, and Alexander Technique specialist. She was trained at the Alexander Alliance in Philadelphia. She's taught workshops at Florida State University, Brevard College, the Ohio Light Opera, to name a few. She is a frequent performer of song literature, oratorio, opera, and operetta. At Wingate University, she is professor of voice, teaches the Alexander Technique, and is director of opera workshop. Help me welcome my friend, a Nats colleague, the accomplished Dr. Jessie Wright Martin. Hello. So just put my mind at ease right away. Like, were you analyzing me while I was sitting here at all?
I was not.
Okay.
So that's the first thing, is the Alexander Technique is about non-judgment. So whatever happens here tonight, we'll just see. Be curious. So everybody should just be curious about what's going to happen, what's happening with your own bodies, and who knows what we might end up saying.
Fantastic. I like this. I'm getting excited. My heart rate's increasing in a good way. So let's start with, how did we meet? How long have we known each other?
We've known each other since 1999.
Is it 99? I guess that is right.
Or was it sooner?
Might have been sooner, I think, because, yeah, it was sooner. I think it might have been 1996.
Okay.
Maybe. But through the Ohio Light Opera and Louisiana State University.
Correct.
So we'll just share a little personal backstory. We may only find this funny, I don't know. But students, you're in classes sometimes and you don't want to be there, right? Well, I shouldn't speak for you. I'll speak for my husband. He took a class on Handel, and we won't say who taught the course.
No,
I don't really know. But Jessie and John were in this class together.
Was back in 1995.
Yes. And,
aging both of us.
I think I can tell this story. My husband, sometimes when we asked, it was a conversation class, sort of like we do in honors, so there's no hiding. But my husband would just say, I pass. She would ask him a question. I pass. So don't try that on me in class. We won't pass. But I'll pass. But anyways, we've known each other a while.
Yes, and John and I would, as things were happening in the class, make eye contact to express our mutual distress about what was happening.
So the big question, did that lead to the Alexander Technique?
Well, it was actually 1995 when I started at LSU, my first voice studio class. I was a graduate student, walked into the first studio class, and my teacher had brought an Alexander Technique teacher. And I'd never heard.
Do you remember who that was?
Oh, yes. Her name was Anne Marie Davis.
Anne Marie Davis. Okay.
So here comes this person. People got up and sang. She worked with them. And things changed, but she wasn't addressing vocal technique at all. And that was really surprising to me, and I just remember thinking, whatever that is, I want to be a part of it. And so I started studying privately with Anne Marie.
And where was Anne Marie based?
Well, she was at LSU.
She was at
She was a
LSU.
movement specialist. So she worked in the theater department, and she taught movement classes. So in addition to taking Alexander with her, I took some of her movement classes. And her most famous student that she taught in her movement classes was Shaquille O'Neal.
Interesting.
And she was shorter than me, so she always had to stand on a chair when she worked with him because he's a pretty big guy. Right.
That's pretty cool.
Right. So that's how it started for me.
Wow. So so you were studying with her. When did you make the transition to think, I want to become a teacher of this myself and work with others?
So I had been working with her for about a year, and she said to me that she thought this was something I should consider. Mm-hmm. But I was a graduate student. We have many graduate students in the room, and
yes.
Unless you're a different graduate student than I was, I didn't have a lot of money. And so I just kind of put it away in the back of my mind. I used the phrase, working with some students today and yesterday, a pebble in the pond. And so it was something that just kind of was percolating. Like I knew that this was something I wanted to be a part of, But I was a graduate student. So time went by, I got my first job, and decided it was time. So then I started my teacher training.
Interesting.
In 2005.
So from the moment that you started exploring this in the class, teaching it on your own, I mean, can you recollect back, what were some of the biggest self-awareness moments that you had with your own body?
So one thing that I experienced that was very surprising, I experienced a lot of tension. I was never diagnosed, but I believe that I suffered from TMJ, which probably some of you know about.
I know about. Anybody? Yes?
And my Alexander Technique teacher never addressed it. But after studying with her for 6 months, it went away. So there's nothing medical about the Alexander Technique. I said that to a few people when we were working. So there's nothing medical, but sometimes problems that we have, chronic pain, are because of the use of our body instead of there being a medical problem.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was a really big thing for me. Also, performance anxiety. I got much more comfortable performing. I know we have performers in the audience, and we know what that's like when we're about to go on stage and the adrenaline kicks in. That is something that is a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
And it's changed my teaching, my voice teaching. I'm different in the way I use language.
That's fantastic. So fantastic. I'm like jumping around. Some of these questions I'm asking are questions that people have sent in. I mean, Catherine, for instance, wanted to know what first inspired you to pursue. We've answered that. But I will ask her extended question. Was it something specifically you noticed happening in your own body, or was it purely the interest of the technique? I mean, what drove it more?
I think that it was really seeing singers, as a singer myself, knowing how hard we work so hard, and sometimes it just keeps being hard, no matter what we do. And here were these singers, and they got up and they sang beautifully, and then she worked with them, and then it just got so much easier. So the idea that things can be easier in life is really wonderful, because life is hard enough.
And not to simplify it too much, but is it almost like getting out of your own way?
Absolutely, and I use that phrase with so get out of the way. So Alexander called it non-doing. So that's what we're trying to do, is less work. So when I work with somebody, like maybe we could stand up right now?
Of course, please.
So,
I can use anything.
So when we're working together, and when I first started getting to teach, I was really excited to kind of get in there and do things. And then I realized that that's not what I should be doing, because that was also tiring for me. So instead, the goal for both you and me is, how can we do less? So we're finding ease, releasing, finding more space, more length. We haven't used the word length yet tonight, but more length, more width. So there's just less work going on. Does anything feel different for you?
I mean, when I was sitting, and of course I'm like on, I'm sure I'm holding in some places. I mean, terminology that I use a lot with my own students in terms of breath is imagining space at every joint in the body, between the vertebrae. So I heard you say something yesterday. Jessie worked with the Ole Miss Choir, and you mentioned something along those lines. So in just the standing up and your hand there and being aware, it was like, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
I'm not feeling as much space in places that I potentially could, but then not putting the space there.
Right.
Like letting it breathe into that space.
Absolutely. Any language is really important. And the things that we say, I use the word allow a lot. I also use the phrase I invite. So if any of my students are watching right now, they're laughing because they are forever saying that. But instead of telling you to do something, I invite you to bring awareness to the space between my hands. And everybody here can also do that. How can you all notice just that space? Almost all of the dream team We worked together in the past couple of days. And so they may be remembering that feeling.
So right away I'm wanting to say, do you see anything? I'm being honest.
Well,
I'm being honest.
Oh, absolutely. And so we talk about constructive feedback. So if you, certainly someone may have an opinion. Of course, we always want to say things in a positive manner.
Right.
Like, I notice.
Right.
Instead, and we don't want to say, you were really tense before.
Right.
Right? Yes.
Right.
But if you want to ask anybody
No,
for
but then
feedback,
the flip of that too is in my own teaching, I'm always like, well, what do you think?
of course.
What do you feel? All right, don't I do that? It's not like this is, right? So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's interesting. Let's. Is there something we can do with the room in terms of how, just thinking about how we're seated? So we have folks in here. We have performers, we have non-performers, we have athletes, we have patrons, we have various folks. So
Sure.
we're I don't know, we're in a class, we're at a concert.
Or anywhere.
Anywhere.
Like
On the bus.
on the bus, being at the airport, waiting for a plane. So let's all think about our sits bones. If you don't know where your sits bones are, I always make this joke, and it's a stupid joke, but I cannot find them for you. It would be inappropriate. Okay? So the sits bones are the bony protrusions at the base of your pelvis. And they are what allows you to rock forward and back. So you can dig around and find them. You go right ahead and do that, okay?
I won't right now.
But so you want the sits bones to be in contact with the chair, because we want the chair to support you. You do not need to be holding yourselves up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you feel that release into the chair, does that change anything for anybody? Does anybody feel anything different?
I feel a more neutral spine.
More neutral spine. Right.
Not straight, but just flexible.
Low back pain. Does anybody in the room ever experience low back pain? Right. Yes. Right. And so part of the reason we have, right, and we all know what that, we've all been told, sit up straight. Right? So when we sit up straight, do you notice how does that change for you?
I'm perched.
Perched. Yeah, do you feel like, no, your sits bones aren't really there? So instead, if you release, find those sits bones, find the chair supporting you, then it's a different place to be. Does that feel different to everybody? Is this more comfortable? Right. Yes.
My rib cage feels more buoyant as opposed to sort of
holding yourself up.
held. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It feels like, okay, I could let the muscles do what they maybe want to do.
Right. And of course, those of us in the room that are singers or brass players or wind players know that if the rib cage is more flexible, we can be better. Some of us are athletes, so we know that the rib cage being more flexible will be helpful. But every single person in this room breathes.
I hope.
Right? And the great thing about breathing is it's involuntary. So we are not having to sit here and go inhale, exhale, exhale. That would be pretty terrible. But if we're not aware of our breathing at all, and if we are, this is what Alexander called downward pull, right? Yes, and it's contagious, right? So Maddie just did it, right? So Alexander called the slump, we all know the slump, and that's the downward pull. The slump feels really good for some of us because it's a habit. But
Picturing all the students at desks.
oh my
Right.
gosh, working at your computer. Yes, Stuart. So working at the computer where we're hunching over for extended periods of time. Right. Yes, I'm going to move from the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question tied to this. Cody
Yes.
wants to know if you have 3 primary ideals of Alexander technique to give to a novice. What would they be? What would be those 3, like in a nutshell? I mean, we're hitting them. But
Yep. So Alexander said, let the neck be free so that the head can move forward and up, so the torso can lengthen and widen. So he talked about the head and neck first, because the dynamic relationship between the head and the neck determines everything that happens in our body. So if that relationship is not working, everything else is kind of sad. So the dynamic relationship between the head and the neck, the concept of this lengthening of the spine, because the downward pull is the shrinking of the spine.
Right.
So as we get older, we're shrinking, we're shrinking, we're shrinking, and we're there. And we have pain. So hopefully, we're doing the opposite. So as we get older, we're lengthening the spine. So literally thinking about more space between the vertebrae.
Yeah.
Okay? So dynamic relationship between the head and the neck, lengthening of the spine, and then widening. So lengthening and widening so that we can have more freedom, flexibility, ease, no pain, be more comfortable.
Right.
That's perhaps more than 3.
No, that's great, though. That's
Okay.
great. And something we didn't say, I mean, this was discussed yesterday in the class, but some of our viewers, who've never heard these 2 words before, I mean, who was the creator of this? Can you give us just
Sure.
a nutshell about
Yes.
where this all started?
So F.M. Alexander was an Australian actor. He was born in 1869. And so this was a time without microphones. And so he did Shakespearean monologues, sonnets, plays to large groups of people outdoors. He had a gig and he lost his voice. So everybody in this room, probably everybody at some point has lost their voice, whether you're a musician or not, right? So he lost his voice, he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, rest your voice. Probably many of us have been told that. So he rested his voice, he had another gig, he lost his voice again. So this happened multiple times, and finally he said, enough is enough. So he set up mirrors around his house, and he started observing himself. So he was obviously a more self-aware person than the average person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But
Thank goodness.
Right. So he set up these mirrors and he started watching himself, and he discovered that when he inhaled to speak in a dramatic fashion, he did this. So his head pulled back and down, and he sucked in air. Everybody, I can see you're all trying this out.
Yeah.
Right. So, and of course, I'm exaggerating. I'm confident that he didn't go that far, but sometimes we have to exaggerate.
But I interject this because I joke with my students, you know, it's just like when you go to the doctor and they tell you to take a deep breath.
Yep.
And suddenly you're like, right? You
Right.
do everything you're not supposed to do. So I could see
Absolutely.
how it could potentially be,
Right.
you know, dramatic.
Right. If anybody knows the movie The King's Speech,
Mm-hmm.
so the Alexander technique is never mentioned, but if you go back and watch that movie, there's a lot of, when he works on his speech, I think probably an Alexander technique teacher was consulted on that.
Huh.
Because he had a lot of people who study a lot of the original people who studied with F.M. Alexander had stutters, and they all went away. But so he saw this. He saw himself sucking in the air and pulling his head back and down, and this sent him on a journey of figuring out what was happening in his body at all times. And he discovered that this downward pull was happening, that he was pulling his head back and down, and so he developed this technique. In a very early on, he called it a psychophysical approach, so the concept of mind-body, the connection, because so much of this work is changing the way we think. So there is a physical component.
But thinking to me equals doing. Like, I mean, like you can't, I think so many times we do without thinking or
Right.
consciously, right?
And so that's the thing, being
I love
really
that.
conscious
Yeah.
of what you're doing at all times. So I would challenge all of you here, and those of you that are watching if you want to be aware of what's happening in your body. Like if I were to ask if anybody's willing to share, is anybody experiencing anything in their body right now? Good or bad? And maybe nobody wants to, because you nodded your head when I said something.
Yeah, I've got a little tension in my lower back. That's
Okay,
normal.
okay. So you've got a little tension in your lower back, and that's just normal. Do we think it should be normal?
No, of course not.
Right, yes. But it's something that most people just are like, well, that's the way it is.
Right.
And so what's great about this, there's a great book, and it's the title is Freedom to Change. And I cannot believe, I'm blanking on who the author is, but that is the great thing about this work, is we have the opportunity to do something different. So yes, I can stay here, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I can sit like this. And I'm not saying that it doesn't feel a little bit comfortable. But if I stay here for an extended period of time, it's going to become uncomfortable. So instead, I can do something different. So I can change the way I'm being, just as you guys can allow yourself to release into that chair. Mm-hmm. Right, and I see you guys are all adjusting, you know. But again, it's not something you have to do. And so that's what I really like about the title of that book is Freedom to Change. So we have the opportunity to do things differently.
And I think, you know, especially as young people, want to be told what to do. And I even in my life, I'm like, someone just tell me the answer, you know. But all the time, you know, giving the advice of, well, what do you feel? What do you notice? And that this really hits that nail on the head. We have to, and especially as singers or dancers or anything that you're using your body, you have to listen to what's happening. And someone on the outside, they can observe to a certain degree, but you have to know, right?
Right, and the nice thing about this work is that we're working together. It's not me doing something to you. Mm-hmm. And so for those of you that I've worked with, I think you would be able to verbalize that experience, that like when you get a massage, which is wonderful, but it's very passive. And you can just lay there and somebody can do something to you. Mm-hmm. But with this work, we're working together as you are changing the way you do things. So the goal, of course, is this becomes yours, you own it, and now you use your body differently.
Got it.
Right.
So Haley wants to know, is it possible, because we're saying, you know, listen to yourself, but is it possible to do the Alexander technique on yourself, or is it better to always have that other person?
So I haven't worked with an Alexander technique teacher in a long time. Now, I've been studying this for a long time, but I am thinking about my body and being aware of what's happening all the time. Now, that's not to say it's the front thing on my mind, but the goal is that, like I said, you own it. It's part of who you are. When you first start, it's a lot easier with me helping you, because I'm giving you some directions, helping you find that experience. But as you continue to work, it becomes yours.
Right.
Right. Now, that's not to say that if there were an Alexander technique teacher in the room other than me, I wouldn't be very excited for them to work with me.
Right, right. One of the things I love when we were scheduling the sessions, you know, I mentioned Jessie worked with a choir. She's also been doing individual sessions with undergraduates, graduates, faculty. I'm scheduling them. And she's like, well, could I have 30 minutes in there? Because I'm going to need to lay on the floor. And, you know, I love that I say that with respect, because I think we all could do a better job of moments, like scheduling in a moment to actually be aware of what's going on, as opposed to, I got to get here, I got to go there, I got to answer this, I got to, I mean, and life is cuckoo bananas. But I thought,
right.
Okay, that makes sense. She needs 30 minutes or a little time to lay on the floor.
Right, to take a pause. And so Alexander used the word inhibition to inhibit habits, which that can be as simple a thing as I'm going to go grab that, or no, I'll do something different. Okay. So I'm going to inhibit the habit. I'm going to do it one way first. Just going to stand up. Okay. Now I'm going to inhibit that habit so that I do it differently. And I'm going to add in something for my students because it'll make them laugh.
And I want to learn to do this. We're all going to do it.
So yes, you can all do it. So when we stand
You
up,
don't have to, if you choose to.
I invite you to.
I invite you to. I said it a little too aggressively.
I invite you to. Right? Very
I
like
invite you.
very
No.
Traviata-ish, or yeah. So we're all going to think about standing up. And when you think about standing up, I want you to think about lengthening your spine. And I know many of the people in the room, we have not worked together, but you're going to lengthen your spine. Your head is going to lead. And as you move forward in space, you're going to feel, you're going to feel that spine lengthening all the way up.
Do it again.
So,
Again? That was beautiful.
So the spine is curved. So when people say sit up straight, it doesn't make any sense because the spine is curved. And so what we want is that natural lengthening of the spine to happen all the way up instead of the habit where we kind of crunch the back of the neck, right? Does everybody kind of know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So this time we'll all do it together.
Okay.
So we'll all move to standing, but the head is going to lead, your body is going to follow. And this is just something did this because I felt like it was a good visual. I'm a very visual person, and I use a lot of gestures when I'm teaching. You've probably picked up on that. So to demonstrate what I think is happening with the spine. And so this is the spine lengthening all the way up. So if you feel like trying it, you can. And we're just be curious. Like, I wonder what will happen if I try this. I got a little, what, can you verbalize what you experienced?
Yeah, I usually clench my back or my traps when I get up to kind of stabilize myself, and I didn't do it.
And you didn't do it? Okay, that's interesting. Anybody else?
I didn't feel like it was as hard to get up. Normally when I get up, I'm like,
Right,
ugh.
like I have to haul myself out of the chair. Right, I mean, that's so insane, but that's a pretty common thing.
Just like floated up.
Right. It's a little more, it's just effortless. Now, and of course, I always exaggerate early on. So, I'm going a little bit further than is necessary. But we want to just keep that spine. And it's less work. Like, how can we do less work? Now, there has to be muscle tension, obviously. Right. Or we'd like noodles on the floor. But so we have to have some muscle tension, but we need to have so much.
All right, I have a question.
Yes.
So we're thinking about the spine and the head forward.
Yep.
Does that naturally bring the groundedness? Because I also feel like if I'm this way, I'm aware of more my hips.
You're like a half a body.
Yeah, and I feel my thighs, but I don't feel grounded.
Right.
If I'm here, and I don't know if it's just, what's the word I'm looking for? Physics? I don't know. That I feel more sense, I'm using my muscles to stand,
right.
as opposed, I'm just feeling the ground.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say.
So, and I think that explains the fact that you're not having to haul yourself up.
Right.
Right, because it's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's just easier.
Yeah. So sitting.
So sitting, the key with sitting is that we have to go back. We can't just go down, like we can, right? But if we also go back, so going further back, it's a different sensation.
Oh, that felt good.
It does feel good. It's also a really nice stretch for your back.
Totally.
So if you feel like standing up again and trying it, feel free. You can. Right, and so then when you go to sit down, just really think that you're going back and down. Oh, okay.
I like the down even better than the up.
I like sitting down.
Sitting down is nice. Yeah, I like you guys were like, oh.
No, but I mean, I feel more in my body.
Right.
As opposed to like, okay, here go knees, hips.
Right.
Here goes. Because I feel stuff in my knees. For me, it's my knees after I've
Right.
sat for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
And there's the element of the fact that you are being present in what you are doing.
I like
So
that.
Alexander talked about the means whereby instead of end gaining. I always like to say that is the journey versus the destination. We are a very goal-centered culture, right? When I ask this question, like, why are you in college? To get a job, right? We're focusing on the recital. We're focusing on the final project. We're focusing on graduation. We're focusing on what we're having for dinner. We're focusing on all these different things.
Right.
And can we focus on what is happening right at this moment? And can we focus on the quality of what we're doing? So the quality of your body as you're standing instead of standing. And I challenged some people today that were singing, playing, asking them to focus just on their body instead of the thing they were doing. And that's a little bit uncomfortable because they feel like they don't have as much control.
Right.
And at first it is. But as you work through it, you start, and this is where, yes, the Alexander technique, it's a part of everything I do. Because whatever I'm doing, I'm aware of it. It's in the back of my mind, what is happening? What's happening with my body? Oh, why does that feel weird? Wonder. And then if I want to change that? Then I can.
Right. I'm going to go out of order with what I had
Sure.
planned because of based on what we're talking about. So I can't help but think, the things you're saying, yes, apply to performers, but it could influence so many aspects of our life. I mean, if we're more aware of how we're feeling, and I'm not saying you do this, Ashley, but if you have that back pain and we're not addressing what's going on, what do? We take some painkiller. We mask it in some way. Again, not saying that's you, just saying in general. And this is something that's come up in my honors class. We're talking about, holistic approach to things, and I won't go into great detail over papers, but it's interesting if this kind of mentality was used more in the medical profession, as this awareness of really what is happening with me as opposed to rushing to the cure, whatever that may be. I mean, and it depends on the situation. But it's really interesting how that could have huge benefit, yes?
Yes, and there are lots of doctors who are very supportive of the Alexander technique. There is nothing medical about the Alexander technique, nothing whatsoever. But if you have chronic pain, if you're able to change the way you use your body, it's possible that chronic pain could go away. I have worked with people who have fibromyalgia, and it doesn't make it go away, but oftentimes when we have pain, our body is compensating by tensing up other places. Right. So as we find some relief there, they still might have pain, but maybe not as much.
But focusing on the why something's happening or how something's and this shaking she cannot control, and they said clearly it did not cure it by any means.
Right.
But it lessened her symptoms significantly, and it was a tool she could use to help get control of that. So I want to call up Michael, if he's willing. I want to call Michael up. So Michael is in my honors class. Michael Franks. Yes. Jessie Martin.
Yes. Hello again.
Have you turn around here, Michael? Come over here. Come over here for me. And I think it's interesting incorporating Michael in because of what you're working on with your paper in class. And also, Michael is very much into martial arts. And I thought it would be fun to incorporate him in and see if you wanted to work with him a little bit. So we're shifting gears away from just the singer, the performer, and other aspects of life where it can come into play. So should I give him, is he going to have to talk or just be?
So first, we'll do a little bit first.
Okay.
Okay. And so I very much appreciate that I met Michael about 30 minutes ago for the first time. And this is a little bit challenging, but you are a performer as an athlete. Yes. Right? So there are a lot of similarities. I often call my singers vocal athletes. And I think all instrumentalists as well, we are athletes because just as you can have performance injuries, so can all of us. Right. So depending on what's happening with our bodies. Right. So do you mind stepping forward just a tiny bit? So, and are you comfortable with me working with you? Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. So we'll work just a little bit, and then I will ask you for feedback. So we'll get you the microphone back there. Right. Okay. So my job is to be curious, to not have an agenda, and just to notice what's happening with Michael's body. Michael's job is just to be aware. And I will ask you to be aware, particularly where my hands are, but in relation to the rest of your body. Because we are one body, not all these random parts. So I am not moving him around. So what I am doing is noticing what's happening with me, noticing what's happening with him, and giving a little bit of direction. Does that make sense to you? Would that be okay? Beautiful. Beautiful, Michael. Good. Are you willing to give a little bit of feedback about what you experienced?
Sure.
Great.
So, as I was just like standing here, and I was trying to focus on like how I was feeling. I felt kind of like straightening up as you were walking around, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And like the way your hands were placed, like I felt like lifting my head up, I guess.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Sure. Absolutely.
I don't know, I feel like light, I guess.
Light. Okay. Maybe a little more buoyant.
Right, now that I'm straightened up.
Okay. Good. So we'll say instead of straightened up, we'll use the word lengthened.
Okay.
Because I don't want you to feel like you have to straighten up.
Right.
Right? Yeah. So you guys see what I'm doing now? That's weird and awkward. Right. Instead of you finding just more space. And Michael is a very, very fabulous person to volunteer like this because it's really hard to verbalize what's happening. And you're just going for it and trying. And that's really wonderful. So you do use your body a lot.
For sure.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And with judo. Is that what it
Yes.
is? Right, yeah. Would you be willing to move into one of your moves? Is there like a posture?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm excited to see this too.
Okay.
Just because I want you to, and because we can
Should
see.
we be scared?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, ideally you're not going to throw me.
Is this going to be like with Avengers or something? No. Darn.
I'll just change into Captain Marvel.
Oh, okay, I'm okay with that. All right.
So like, I guess.
Just anything.
starting
Yeah.
stance?
Yeah, whatever works for you, because then I'm going to play with you a little bit as you're in that posture.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah.
Just like this.
Okay. That's the way you start. Great.
Now, from my angle, I'm talking while they're working. I can see, don't want to distract them, but I can see lots of small muscle movement or shift that I don't know if you can see from the front.
Are you comfortable with me putting my hands on your hips?
Yes.
Okay. Good, Michael. So release and just take a little walk around this space, just so that you can, and then just notice if anything feels different. And maybe you can talk about how that posture, if it felt different as we worked together.
Neither mind. I guess I kind of felt like bigger.
Bigger?
Bigger.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Do you think
you
that's
hear
a good
Michael?
thing?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Do you feel like being bigger is a good thing?
Yeah, for fighting, for sure.
For fighting. Right, absolutely. Right. I'll try to stop
Yeah, I
being over
guess
here.
you wouldn't want to go in like this, right?
No.
Right.
Singers, we don't want to go in like that either.
Right.
All right.
And people in general, we don't want to do that. Right. Okay, so you felt bigger. Yes. Yeah. If we had lots more time, we could continue to play with this. One of the things that I did in my training, so the training in Philadelphia was once a month for 3.5 years. And it was like 5 or 6 days for that period of time. And we started every day with Tai Chi. So, and we would often partner up. So I would be going through the motions, and then somebody would be working with me. And there are a lot of similarities with Judo and Tai Chi, right? Now, Tai Chi is not aggressive, not,
Neither is Judo,
but I suppose you could fight with Tai Chi, but we're not going to. Not tonight, not tonight.
So are you ever nervous, Michael, before you do a competition, or what is the correct terminology?
It's competition. So I used to get nervous a lot. Not so much anymore. Maybe like before I step on the mat, but once I'm on,
You're in mode.
focused.
Okay, just curious. Because I'm wondering, like, for any of us, are there things, before stepping on that mat, or before stepping on that stage, or before standing in front of a classroom of children, to help with that in some way?
Well, absolutely. So when we focus, and obviously you already focus, you're focusing on your body. But when we focus on what's happening in our body, it gives us the opportunity to inhibit, or I really like the word interfere, with that flight response.
Right.
Right? So when we get scared, like if we hear a really loud noise or something, the flight response is not a terrible thing when something terrible is happening. But most people live in kind of a more flight response all the time. And when we get ready to go on stage or to go onto the mat, there might be that as well. So if instead we're able to interfere with that, the adrenaline won't kick in as much. So our breath will not go crazy. The leg won't start shaking. You all know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, so all of those things, we can inhibit what's happening there. Yes, is there anything else you want to share? I don't want to force you to stand up here for so long.
It's okay.
What would be like your, forgive my ignorance, like a move, like I'm thinking for a singer, like when we're singing really high, that's when more of the tension's going to potentially come into play. Is there a more heightened position or move that you notice?
I'd say like during a throw.
Okay.
So you throw in judo, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
That's probably it.
Volunteer. No.
I don't think that's a
We're
good
not
idea.
going to do that. We're not
Right.
going to do that.
Right.
We'll
No.
save that one for the next one.
The next one.
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to hurt anybody. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Michael.
So we're going to shift. We're going to go, I want to pull up a young person, an emerging trumpet player
Okay.
who, so I'm going to introduce this gentleman. I think we've seen each other before. Good to see you, Stuart. So Stuart, most of your playing, you play in band, correct?
Yeah.
So most of your playing in band you do seated or standing?
Seated.
Seated. So would you mind sharing with Miss Jessie sort of how you sit in that chair and let her work with you a little bit? Because I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, when you're at school working in band class, are you really thinking about your zits bones?
Oh, no.
Okay. All right, so show us, okay, so that's your at-rest position. Okay. Should we have him go into playing mode? Or?
So does your band director ever tell you, what does your band director tell you when you're getting ready to play? Do you get any directions?
No, he just says play it right, basically.
Play it right.
Play it right.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. So are you comfortable with me working with you first before you play? Okay. So I'll just work a little bit before you actually play. So what's nice for Stuart is that he has not had as much time with downward pull, right? Some of us have had more time than others. And it doesn't matter why we've gotten to this point. All that matters is that we have the option to change it, right? So just like I said, there's nothing medical about the Alexander technique. There's nothing psychological. People will often say that and I'm just like, oh, we're not going there. Like, that's not what this is. We just want to focus on the body, but you might experience things.
I love it.
Do you want to go ahead and just play a little bit?
I don't have anything memorized.
Do you just like a scale or something? Yeah, it doesn't matter what you play. Perfect. Great. Yes. Good. So do you yes.
Nothing like putting a 13-year-old on the spot in front of a room of, this takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate it immensely. It really does.
Great. So do you notice anything happening in your body?
I just feel like light.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay, so you feel light. Great. So like I said before, kind of figuring out the language is challenging, right? So do you mind if I do a little bit more? So this brings up something that's going to come up a little bit later. So Stuart, and in the chair, he's lower down. So for me to get to him in a comfortable manner, I have to adjust the way, if I try to work with him like this, it's going to be bad for both of us. And most importantly, for Stuart, okay? So I have to change what's happening in my body, and Alexander called it working in monkey. And the reason he called it working in monkey is that there's a chair, the couch is right there. You kind of move into a little bit of a squat. So just like I'm going to sit down, so to get to him comfortably, I have to move into monkey. And the way I do that is by releasing my hips backward so that it's easier for me. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
We all know what it's like to pick something up. And people are like, bend with your knees, with your back, you know what I'm talking about? Like if I want to touch your shoes, if I do that, that's uncomfortable for me. So if instead I do that, then that's easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So I have to do the same thing here because I don't want it to be an unpleasant experience for Stuart, and I also don't want to have pain. So I have to release back a little bit. Are you comfortable playing that scale again with me being right here, working with you?
Like now?
Whenever you're ready. Good, good. Was that different for you?
A little.
A little? Okay, it's really hard to verbalize. Can you say what might have been different for you? You're pretty amazing. It's pretty fantastic that you're willing to do this.
I don't know.
You don't know, and that's okay because, so some people, when I work with them for the first time, they say, I feel nothing. Nothing has changed. So you feel like something has changed.
A little, yeah.
A little, yep. Something has changed for you, and that's all that really matters. If we had a lot more time, then it would make a little more sense for you.
I notice, and I don't know if you guys can that angle, so his normal position is very downward. Mm-hmm. So the little adjustments you did the head, not that it was, and I don't know what the ultimate is, but he did rotate. Mm-hmm. And the spine was different, and the sitz bone. Did you guys see that from that angle?
Yeah.
His neck was more aligned.
The neck was more aligned. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as that spine, one more time, Stuart, and then I'm going to let you go. So as that spine lengthens, he gets taller, right? And he comes out of that downward pull, out of the slump. Now, it might, after a little while, you might be like, this is weird and I don't want to do it anymore, because it feels perhaps a little bit uncomfortable because it's different. Is that possible?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So you're doing a great job. And so just being curious. And so I'm going to challenge you when you go sit back down, kind of play with that and see if that feels different for you, just as you're sitting. I mean, if you want to keep playing the trumpet while we're talking, you can do that too.
Okay.
So what do you think is the main, when he's thinking about it, is he thinking about the elongation of the spine? Is he thinking about the openness? What would you...
So what I would say for you to think about, I'm feeling like I'm looking down at you.
Oh, you want,
So,
you
no,
sit.
no,
I'll
no,
sit
no,
up
it's totally
here.
fine. So what I would invite you to think about is when you sit in the chair or when you're playing, I wonder what happens if I think about lengthening versus I'm going to try to lengthen. Do you see the distinction a little bit?
Now, this might be a little out there.
I know.
But imagine if you're thinking in those terms instead of, and no disrespect to any teacher, but instead of it being about get it right,
Right,
if it's suddenly about what am I doing?
right.
Because the tone changed in the second scale versus the first. Now, part of that was maybe just the second time doing it in front of a group of people I don't really know, and what, but it changed. So imagine, and I just would pose this to you, Stuart, if you're focusing on, because I think it's hard for young people to be thinking about themselves.
Of course.
Right?
Yep.
It's more about like, don't notice me. But
Right.
if we're noticing ourselves, that would only strengthen whatever it is we're doing.
Right.
Potentially, yes?
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Really? A little bit. Okay. We'll talk more about it.
Yes, and you are fabulous.
Thank you,
Thank you
Stuart.
so much for doing this.
Want to do, sorry, Lincoln. Want to do one more thing. Want to pull Caitlin up, and we're going to do just a little quickly with a singer, having her just do a little bit, because you worked with Caitlin already,
Yes,
right?
so
this is
Caitlin and I
not
spent
fresh
time
on the
together
spot.
yesterday.
And Caitlin is part of the Dream Team, and Caitlin has, she has done Alexander before.
Mm-hmm.
So can we just do a little bit with the singing and
Yep.
just see what happens?
So,
See, I said it, see what happens.
so let's go ahead and sing a little bit first, and then I'll work with you, and then you can sing again.
All right.
Does that feel comfortable?
That's great.
Great. And it's just going to be a little snippet.
And I'm going to have you, do you want me to hold this down here for you? Because we're going to need the mic, right, for the live stream? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you hold my mic for me. Do you want? Is that okay?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
How
okay.
else are you going to be in your body if you're holding a mic?
It's just intimidating.
Oh, sorry. I'll look away. Thank you, Caitlin.
Great. So let's step forward just so that I don't run into the couch again. Great. And so we did this a little bit earlier today. Were you thinking about your body as you were singing?
Yes.
Okay, great. Were you thinking about your body in a curious way or in a way like, oh, it's not working for
It's
me?
like all these people are looking at me. I have to look good.
See, Stuart, she was thinking just like you.
He's out of the building. So Caitlin, I would just challenge you to think about doing less. Now, that does not mean that we do not have to practice and work really hard, because it is really hard to have such a beautiful voice. So Caitlin has worked really hard to get here. But is it possible that you're doing more than you need to do? So we'll just go again. And this time I'm going to stay here with you while you're singing.
It's great. I love this.
Okay, that was dramatically different. That was
And of course it could be because she was less nervous.
Right. And there's always that. No, there's always that. And I know what's weird is you can't fully see it. And I know without seeing it from the profile, part of it may be, some of you may, tell me if I'm wrong, some of you may be thinking, I don't see anything different. Anyone thinking that? It's fine if you are. But from this side, I'm telling you, well, the sound was, it's amazing how this is just my observation, that you were more, I would say, in your body, and there was this north-south connection going on. The first time, I saw a north without the south. Mm-hmm. Yeah? And it wasn't straight north. It was sort of like, whoop, this way. I don't know if that makes sense.
Sure. So can you verbalize what the experience was like for you?
It felt like the back of my neck was just like, it was just support for my head. It wasn't like engaged like it was the first time. And it took the first time to feel the difference of the second time, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
So,
right.
Also, just like when you had your hands on my hips, I felt, it started to tense up there, and then that awareness.
Right.
Hey.
Right.
No, and it is amazing the power of touch.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yes.
really, truly is. And as you said, it can be very helpful sometimes to do it wrong.
Yep.
To then, and not that it was wrong, but to do
Right.
it in a way that's not optimum, to then feel what it's like in the optimum.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I'm just bringing awareness. So it's hard. It's a hard thing to understand what's happening right now.
Yeah.
For people that are watching that have never had this experience. In one of my favorite books, it's the textbook that I use in my class. It's called Body Learning by Michael Gelb. And he says something to the effect of, it is so hard to explain. I'm so excited. I was so excited when you started explaining the Alexander technique, and that meant I was not going to have to explain it. Because it's so hard to explain, because having the hands-on experience all of a sudden clarifies it. It makes so much more sense. Would you agree with that?
Yes. It's like you get feedback without words.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, that's happening.
Right. Of course, you asked the question earlier, can you do it, to yourself? Having that extra attention makes it easier.
Yeah.
The reminder that you don't have to work so hard,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
That there's less work.
Yes.
Yes. And I particularly enjoyed the way you went up to the top the second time.
Mm-hmm.
It was very pretty the first time, but the second time, and as I was really thinking, like, oh, look, that's what that sounds like. Like as we were all standing up, we know what that felt like, but she just demonstrated what it sounds like.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, because what tends, so those of us that do know about singing, when we go up or playing an instrument, we go higher, and tends to not just effortlessly happen, and that's what happened for you.
Yeah,
And it was just, oh, there it is.
there it is.
Yeah.
Whoop, there it is.
Yeah. Lovely.
Thank you, Caitlin. All right, so we're doing so much. I'm
know.
losing track of time,
I
but we
know.
can't finish without doing the game. Okay, we got to do the game, right? All right, Maddie, I'm going to call you up. We are about to play. It looks like we're going to play our version of Jenga with a little twist of this and that. Let's go to our intro video as we shift into, what are we calling this?
Alignment for life.
Alignment for life. Thank you. All right, here we go with alignment for life. We have our lovely Jenga game. Why Jenga? Because it's how about it's all put together, right? Doesn't that make sense?
Sure.
Totally. And then we got to make it a little interesting. We're going to get to know a little bit more about you. And who is this woman? We have Maddie Morris here, and she is a student at Ole Miss, vocal performance major, and she is going to share a little bit about herself. So as we're going through this, if you notice stuff about yourself or awareness about how Maddie's embracing the Jenga, feel free to speak forth. Now, we got to make it a little
if I work
heightened
with you?
that you can't take forever as you do this. What are we're thinking like around like a 10-second limit or something, all right?
Okay.
So, but we don't want it to topple on number 2, right?
Right, and Maddie and I haven't played in a really long time. And I will tell you that I am the least competitive person when it comes to games. Wow. So yes. When I play games with my friends, they're like, come on, just move along.
Uh-oh.
So I know.
We would not make good teammates. We would not make good teammates. I would probably get annoyed with you. I'd vote you off my island. No, I'm kidding.
Right, and I would be saying,
I'm kidding.
I wonder what's happening as you do that, right? As you play Oregon Trail and you die of tuberculosis or whatever. Right.
Are you competitive?
I don't know. It comes and goes.
It comes and goes. She's competitive? Okay, all right. This is hilarious.
So what are we just like?
All right,
we
so
push
you
them
have
out?
to, you like a little push.
Yeah.
Can't take it off the top.
Oh, she's competitive. She's gonna win. So there it is, and that's
All
okay.
right. Now, all right. Who's going first?
Do I have to hold the mic?
Nope. You go first, Maddie. Let's watch Maddie. Maddie's going to show us how it's done. It's all moving. Oh.
It's okay. Just keep going. Just keep going. What if you release back in your hips a little more?
All right, Maddie, you have to put it on the top, right?
You're right.
And I want to know, beach or mountain? Which do you prefer, this or that? Mountain.
With the beach at the bottom.
She won. I didn't have the mic. Mountain. Why am I speaking into this? Say
With
that
a
again.
beach at the bottom.
She wants the best of all possible. Both of what am I trying to say?
All possible.
Best of all possible worlds. Yes. All right. You're up.
San Francisco, perhaps.
There you go. I like
Yes.
it. All right, Dr. Martin, bring it on.
Okay.
I like it, Ben. All right, driver or passenger?
A little wonky now.
Yeah.
Driver or passenger?
Driver or passenger?
Passenger.
Passenger. All right. All right. All right. You're up, Miss Maddie.
It's gotten wonky, so just be aware. She's aware.
Oh yeah, I'm totally. Yeah, thank you. Aggressive. I like it. All right. All right. Okay. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee. I don't hold the mic. Coffee talk. I got it. All right, I like it. All right, Jessie.
Okay.
Very nice. Rain or snow?
Rain.
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 I would pick snow. I like, okay,
We
rain.
don't have snow puddles. Rain puddles. There's no snow puddles.
There's snowmen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Maddie, you're up. Wait, are you allowed to do that?
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
I don't think she pulled the whole thing.
Sweet or salty? Wait, sweet or salty?
Salty.
Salty or sweet?
Oh.
Salty.
Salty. All right.
Maddie is salty.
Salty.
I am picking that up. Yes.
Sweet? Salty?
No, no.
All right. You're up, Dr. Martin.
Okay.
Oh, I like.
Doesn't want to let go.
Walmart or Kroger? Do you know these places?
Yes, and for sure Kroger.
Kroger. Good to know.
Although Walmart has just started a new thing, like college programs for their employees.
Nice.
So I think that's a
very
good shout out for Walmart.
All right. Oh, she's going brave.
This is the way we end the game really fast.
It feels like there's a lot of weight on that one.
She allowed to change her mind?
Yes.
take
Yeah.
my
Oh,
hand.
yeah, definitely.
All right.
Nicely
Ice
done.
cream or cake?
Gluten-free cake.
Gluten-free cake. All right. Dr. Martin.
Okay. Nope. Not there. I'm gonna go maybe easy.
Fire or ice?
Fire.
Fire. I like. All right, Maddie. Chocolate or vanilla?
You can't do that.
You have to make a choice.
It's got to be strawberry.
So if you only had the choice between chocolate and vanilla, you would say no thank you?
Yep.
Okay. All right. We're learning a lot about this one right here. All right, you're up. You're saltier than I realized. Oh, nice. Vanilla ice cream. Do you know the song? That's right. Day or night?
Day.
Day. All right, Maddie.
All right.
They're too good at this game.
Nicely done.
Juice or water?
Juice.
Juice. All right. Go ahead.
Go on the easy route, maybe.
I would have knocked it over a long time ago. All right, TV show or movies?
Great British Baking Show. TV show.
TV show. All right. I like it.
That is the current thing. Yes.
All right, Maddie. Start giving them some tense music, Ben. Ketchup or mustard?
Oh.
Mustard.
Yes.
Oh, all
Right
right.
there with you.
Bring it on. Walk or drive?
Walk.
Walk. Go ahead, Maddie. Should I make them do it blindfolded?
The show's just gonna cut off. We'll be here all night. Nice.
Very nice. Breakfast or dinner?
Breakfast.
Ooh, all right, all right, all right. All right, Jessie. Alex is stressed.
If you want to.
Fast or slow?
Slow.
Slow. All right, Maddie.
Oh, she's just. Ooh, my gosh.
Cats or dogs?
Pigs.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
All right. I'm learning a lot about her. Monkey. Oh!
I thought you were gonna take the one off the middle.
Oh! Audience or performer?
Performer.
Performer. All right, come on, Maddie.
All right.
Ooh. Smooth or rough?
Smooth.
Smooth. This is too much. Meat or veggies?
Veggies.
Veggies. Oh! North or south?
North.
North. Got it. All right.
Okay.
All right, Jessie, assess the situation.
How's this for a spine? She's crying.
Nope, that one's not coming out. That was a bad idea.
Should we make them, if they touch it, they have to do it?
Time to wrap it up.
Time, next
We're
time,
wrapping it
next
up.
Time, next time. The next time.
No, I'll do it.
No, 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 no.
Use your use the techniques.
That one is not coming out.
Wait till next week.
It's not coming out. We'll go maybe. Woof. premiered an opera in the fall called Urban Legend.
Urban Legend. Maddie.
I'm sorry.
No.
Maddie, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. And like I said, got to learn a little bit about Miss Maddie Morris. I like the salty aspect.
Sure. Anytime.
I like it. I
And
like it.
I like the fact that you don't want to make a choice.
That is good. I like it. I
Being
like it.
decisive, but sometimes on purpose.
Yeah, make your own destiny, your own choice, your own
Right.
choice. Well, I can't believe we've gone over. We could keep going. But have a seat for a second. I just want to say thank you to a few people. I want to thank you guys for being participatory on this venture tonight and being so open to what Jessie is bringing to our presence to think about and ponder with. I want to thank our audience via the web. I want to thank the Mississippi chapter of NATS, the College of Liberal Arts, the Department of Music. I want to thank Amanda Fleiflet, the Inn at Ole Miss, the Yakima Arts Council. I want to thank the Chancellor's House Hotel. I want to thank Brady Bramlett, and I want to thank the Dream Team, Carly, Ava, Haley, Jessie, and Caitlin. Thank them. I want to thank our big band tonight, our pianist extraordinaire, Ben Rohrbach. And if I've forgotten anyone to thank, I thank you too. I want to sincerely thank you, Jessie. Thank you for coming to Oxford, Mississippi and sharing your approach. I think it's something that is applicable to us as singers, but it's something that we can really apply and think about in our life to just potentially make us happier, healthier people. So thank you. Thank you, Jessie.
Thank you.
And as I always say, what are we doing? We are on a music research revolution! Woo!